Hey guys, here with another video. This one's just about to be a hand trap tier list. One thing I wanted to know is in the title I have power level, not practicality. That's just because some of these cards, it depends what deck we're playing. With like something like Dimension Shifter, for example, we can't play it in every deck. We can play it in Floowandereeze, and if we can play it, it's probably the best hand trap in the game, right? So I'll put that one to S tier right now, just. But I mean, it's gonna go in line with things like Gamma. Even though we're playing a brick, Gamma's still powerful. Imperm versus Effect Veiler. One's a tuner, so it functions in the 3 axis. But I'm just gonna go generic. How good is this card? And I'll talk a little more, just why it might be higher given practicality too. So, what do we want for the next card? So I'm just gonna go in order, and we're gonna compare cards as we go. So we have Artifact Lancia. Lancia is pretty cool because it's like Bell and Ash. It hits the Brave engine subtly. It was way better when everyone was playing PK. So I do think that's kind of hurts it a little bit. But I still think it's a tier hand trap. Now, it might be lower than some other A tiers, and like I said, we'll compare. But you can run it in every deck. It's also another Dagda target, which is cool. So if you're running Dagda, it's actually going to be really good for you when you already use Scythe, or if you drew Scythe, you get a Lancia, or just in certain matchups, Lancia can be broken, right? Um, or if you're playing Drytron, you're gonna have to play Lancia, I think. Infinite Impermanence. Now when we compare Infinite Impermanence to Lancia, one's just Impermanence is a 1-for-1, and Lancia is a Floodgate. Now that's the same with cards like Jewel and Mockbird versus Ash. And just because something is a Floodgate, I don't think it makes it necessarily better. I still think Imperm is one of the best hand traps in the game, so I definitely would say it's an S tier card. Right now, you don't really see it ran in many decks besides like Swordsoul, just because the practicality with Effect Veiler, level 3 tuners, they can make Hulk. It's pretty relevant throughout like the whole meta. But we're just saying that Imperm's insane, right? I mean, I thought it was gonna go to 2 last ban lists just because everyone in the YCSs were playing it. When Scythe gets hit or this Brave Engine gets hit, it definitely will see more play. It's just because 1-for-1s don't feel that valuable right now. Cycle Reader. Cycle Reader really only hits Scythe. It hits Drytron, but Drytron haven't been that relevant. I mean, they're still doing really well without Ava, obviously. So I think right now, looking at all these other ones, um, I'm still gonna put it in the B tier, and that might go C. We'll see. Now we're gonna have Cherries. Now Cherries is interesting because it is technically a 1 card out for Scythe, if they don't draw it, or if they don't play a card like Beatrice or something that like gets it in the graveyard, another way from deck. Uh, so I think Cherries is actually like probably one of the most up and coming hand traps, just because you just use it on Dagda and now they can't use their Scythe lock, right? And it's a level 3 tuner, which is pretty cool. So I think it's definitely underrated. Um, but is it as good as Lancia? It's not as versatile. And it depends on what your extra deck is. So you have to be playing the same extra deck cards as your opponent. Now, assuming we're all playing Scythe, hooray! But you can't play it in every deck. It's got that kind of floodgatey mentality, but you're still at a neg 1. I'm gonna put it to B tier, but I'm also gonna move Cycle Reader to C tier because I feel like that makes more sense. Because I definitely feel like Cherries is above, a tier above Cycle Reader, but I just Cherries forces you to play cards, and it forces you to go neg 1 to just not get locked, and that costs a card. So we have Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler's super strong right now, just as a level 1 tuner. So it's interesting that like all of these cards, they're not only functioning as a negate, as a hand trap, they're actually just like normal summons that get us to our Alk because they're tuners. I'm going to have Effect Veiler in A tier, but above Lancia. I think Veiler is super strong right now. If you just Veiler Hulk, they don't always open their Brave engine. Sometimes they're just going Rose Dragon. Regardless, I think it just combos well with everything. And what I meant, but by the way, if you Valor Hulk, even if they have the level 7 and the level 4 token, they're forced to negate the Valor. And not having that level 7 actually affects them a lot. So it's still like insane, I think, versus Hulk even under the Brave engine. Because you get rid of the Omni Negate and you get rid of a level 7 that's used to make the Baroness. So I think that's pretty strong. Alright, so Bell. Bell is actually going to be above Valor for me. Now, this is because, and we honestly have the trio coming up. Bell is pretty much just like Ogre and Ashe, and it hits the Brave engine really well. The only thing is the level 3 Chantress, you can still hit it because technically in the effect part, it adds from the graveyard. So that's the reason you can negate it, not because it banishes, because anything that's the cost, Bell doesn't hit. So it has to be part of the effect for Bell to work on it, but it does work on Enchantress. So it's pretty good. I would not say it's as good as Ashe, just because Ashe is so versatile. I think Ashe is definitely above Impermanence. We see 3 of it in every deck. It hits a lot of things. It used to hit Desires too, but I think it's pretty definitive just how good Ashe is. It hits the Brave engine. I mean, it hits a lot of things that like Valor hits too. Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. Which is crazy though, that's right next to Dimension Shifter and still above all these other cards. But I didn't like Ash Blossom in the previous format, but now I feel like you have to play it. Just because the 1-for-1 potential is like always there. You're never really not going to activate an Ashe. And it's funny in Master Duel, you also have to play it because of Max C. So it's just when there's these polarizing cards that exist that we have to, do something against, Ashe is right there and hitting them just like Crossout Designator. It kind of acts in that way sometimes. Now, for the next card, we have Ghost Ogre. I actually think Ghost Ogre is insanely strong right now just because it guaranteed hits the Brave engine, and the Brave engine is just so heavily played. So, I do have it above Impermanence. Now, I know it's weird saying, like, Impermanence is better than Bell, but, Ogre works versus right, too. So, if they go right or Enchantress, we're hitting both of those, whereas Bell, we're only hitting Enchantress. So I really like Ogre, honestly, right now. And especially if you play it right, you can even just use it on the level 7 negate if you're worried about them having another one. A lot of people are playing 2 now. But regardless, making that read, you're still going to get insane value. So I think that's pretty certain. Ooh, Niburu. I think Niburu is one of the most disappointing hand traps since the Brave engine came out, just because it just inherently works around it. Now, is it better than Cherries? As a combo card, yes, but alone, so alone power level, a lot of these also work good with another one, but like I said, if I Imperm or Valor the Hulk, I'm still getting rid of the level 7. The Nibiru's the same way. I'm still getting rid of the level 7. So, considering that, it seems pretty good. But if they just summon Baron without summoning 5 times, that's pretty difficult though. Just because, so you have to summon your 2 faithful guys, then you have to summon Tuner, non-tuner, make Hulk. That's 3 summons right there with your token and your Omni Negate. That's 5 summons. So it really does function just like Valor. And considering how good it is as a combo card, I think that it still is an A-tier hand trap and probably one of the best side cards. So I think it's better than Lancia. And, at the beginning of the format, I thought Nibiru was dead. And, as a standalone card, but we're left with little options when it comes to this meta. And, Scythe is such a pulverizing definer. that just getting rid of the level 7 as an extender to make Baron actually feels good. And then all these in combination with each other is, just as good. I don't know if any of them get better. Obviously, Imperm Nibiru or Effect Veiler Nibiru is one of the best combos ever in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! But besides that, I do think it's, worse than all of these alone. Retaliating C saw a comeback with the B Trooper deck. It's pretty cool. But without the B Troopers, it's I wouldn't play it. So, I'm definitely gonna have it below Cycle Reader. Kind of a fun one, I guess. Do I think it's D tier? Yeah, something's gotta be D tier, right? Or else why is it there? All right, DD Crow. I do like DD Crow a lot, actually. I think it's like really versatile, but it's not a floodgate. It hits Scythe, so it's definitely better than Cycle Reader because it also hits DPE. But you don't want to preemptively hit Enchantress or anything like that. So I'm actually gonna just put it a tier above Cycle Reader, but still behind Cherries. Yeah, it's actually okay versus Prank Kids too, which is cool. So it's a really versatile card. I feel like it's always been versatile. We see like people in luxury always siding 3. But had people tell me that's why they like it. They think that makes sense. But I don't think you should run it over any of these other cards. So that's why it's right there. Gamma, so considering what I was saying earlier about just like power level, we obviously have to have Gamma above Imperm. This is a lot of S tier. I'm just gonna say that. So I know there's like it's so subjective with tier lists and like what the actual definers mean. Instead of using tier 0, I'm using S tier this time. Doesn't mean tier 0. So just take this as like each one is better than the last, right? It's in order completely. Gamma is just insane. Literally does so much for you. It doesn't do much versus the Omni Negate because like it was gonna get destroyed anyway. But going second is also, it does a lot in combination with anything else. So a power level would definitely be above these two. Droll Mockbird was one of the like best hand traps for a long time, especially as a side card versus like Drytron. But it's just neg 1 right now. I think versus BK it does a little, but it doesn't really do anything versus anything. So I'm actually gonna have it in the C tier, right above Cycle Reader, because it's still good versus a lot of lesser played decks, but it's not what it used to be. And then Ghost, Moonlight, and Chill. I think this card is just as good as some of these other cards, and I see a lot of decks playing 60 hand traps and they're maxing out. So where do I put this card? I think it's honestly just better than Nibiru and Lancia if I were going to play one over the other. Now, this is also changes with side deck, because like Nibiru is insane versus Dragon Link, but I really just see Nibiru as a side card, and all these cards above it are potentially main deck cards. And when we're spamming like all these cards in it, like I did have builds where I played literally all the Ghost and the Effect Veiler. So like just by that experience alone, I just think that they're so strong. The effect negation is so strong. Negating that Howl can be insane, especially when people are doing the Vishuda play, just as they're level 7. It really comes up because it's not as easy for them to make Cherubini with the adventure package. So when you're sending the Brave Engine, that changes things a lot more with Cherubini, because then you're getting to the Brave Engine before Hulk, and these cards get less good. But that's not always the case, so that's why I have it in the spot it is. I hope you enjoyed the tier list. Like, I know it's always subjective, but I do think this is a pretty good representation of where these hand traps stand compared to each other. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. I appreciate it a lot. A lot of you aren't subscribed, but you watch. That goes a long way. But if you subbed, it would mean a lot because we're just hitting goals. I hope you have a good day. Let me know anything else you want to see, and I'll try to get to it.